The content in this magazine could contain references of topics and difficult subject matter that may be triggering. Please honor yourself, inner knowing, and proceed with whatever help or guidance you feel is intuitively aligned. Welcome to Sovereign Magazine Podcast. I'm Nicole George, CEO and founder of Sovereign. I'm so happy you are here. We are the magazine podcast and community guiding 5 million women to their sovereign selves. From heart-led conversations to magical meditations, our inspiring guests will show you how they can help you step into your sovereign self. Are you ready to listen to your inner voice and step into your power? Then keep listening to hear all of the intuitive messages meant for you today. Hello. Today I have the privilege of reconnecting with Dani Devren, one of our amazing columnists. She is a soul-aligned mentor and energy alignment specialist who guides spiritually curious women in business to trust their energy, own their voice, and build aligned, fulfilling brands, blending spirituality, feminine energetics, and intuitive visibility strategy. She helps women rise into confidence and authentic leadership through her soul-aligned visibility method, private mentorship, and her growing community. Her mission is to guide women back to who they truly are so that they can lead, create, and be seen from a place of truth and inner power. Welcome back, Dani.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so delighted to have you here today. We're talking about fear, anger, and jealousy, which is our February new moon issue. And in your article, Navigating Emotions While Maintaining Inner Peace, you really explore how the profound shift that happens when you stop personalizing other people's behaviors and you begin to own your own emotional truth. That's really when alignment begins to happen and not necessarily ego. So perhaps, why don't you share a little bit more about your article or even why you wrote it?
Thank you so much. Okay, so this has been a massive part of my journey. So as I have navigated becoming more confident in my business, more visible in the online space, on social media, I've had to really kind of battle with some inner demons, I guess. And it's been a massive learning curve of mine where I've had to really understand that as humans, one of the biggest lessons and missions in life, I believe, is to not be so reactive, because we are not here to control how other people behave. We are not here to choose how they respond, how they feel about things. It's not our place to control any of that. All we can be in control of is our own responses and reactions. And a lot of, Mel Robbins' let them theory was a huge part of this learning for me, as well as my work with understanding the universal laws. The law of allowing has been a massive one, because we have to understand how we are here to allow others to navigate their own journeys, because it's all down to personal perception and perspective. Now, you can have a conversation with somebody and your intention might be pure, it might be kind, it might be genuine. However, the way they will perceive it is going to be based on their own story, their own trauma, their own triggers, their own stuff. And what happens as humans is we can be misaligned, we can be disconnected, we can be triggered, and we can react. Now, of course, if somebody comes into a situation with their own, even if it's something as simple as they've had a bad morning, that energy is going to reflect into that conversation, into that argument, or potentially if somebody is triggered by something of their past. For example, all these things we cannot control, right? All we can control is compassion, understanding, and grace for ourselves and for others. So for me to not be so reactive and to take every situation as personal was a real big learning curve of mine, which I now teach and support my clients with. Because when you have that inner sense of self, when you really know who you are, when you have that inner compass and that inner confidence and peace of mind, you can handle life better and easier, and you can navigate other people from a more pure and aligned place. Because what you are doing is you are allowing them the space, you are allowing them the compassion to navigate however they need to in that time, because that is their right. And you are choosing not to react. You are choosing not to be affected by it. And that is a massive part of being human, because we are massively affected and impacted beings. We just do take on a lot of people's stuff. And one of the massive biggest things that I've had to learn is to not take on other people's, and to also hold responsibility of what have I put out? What am I responsible of here? Like, how did that conversation shift so drastically? What did I say? How did I carry myself? And that has been a massive part of my journey. So I think that's a large part of what I was explaining in my article.
That's so funny. I was going to say, is this some sort of emotional self responsibility? And then you said taking responsibility. So I'm wondering, what does feminine integrity really look like in those moments when we need to return to ourselves and perhaps take that radical self responsibility, emotional responsibility? Because so many of us are caught up in the activation, if you will. Let's not call it a trigger for this moment, but the activation within us when somebody else has gone down the path of anger or fear or jealousy, we become activated in ourselves, right? And so, how do we start to return to ourselves in a way with that compassion? Like, what are some of the steps that you share with your clients about that?
So something I talk about often is increasing your baseline frequency. So as humans, we have frequencies and energies, and they can go up and down. However, if you can always work on maintaining a certain level of grounded frequency that you always return back to, in psychotherapy, they talk about it as your window of tolerance. So when you understand the neuroscience as well as the spirituality energy side, it really makes sense. So I like to teach my clients through mindset shifts and understanding their behaviors and their habits and their stories, how to constantly work on that. So it's not a quick one and done fix, but it's constantly allowing yourself the compassion to feel the feels, but to return back to that baseline. So then when you are in these situations, you know who you are, you know your baseline, you know how grounded you were in that situation, hopefully. Or you can show compassion to yourself that actually you lost yourself a little bit, you lowered your frequency, but let's return, let's come back to baseline. Let me hold my ground here, or let me choose to walk away from a situation. However, the big part about femininity in this, so again, a massive part of my personal journey was understanding that polarity between feminine and masculine energy. So I was massively in my masculine. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. The beautiful combination of when you can have that balance between feminine and masculine is really powerful. However, when you are often in the masculine, you are reactive, you are fast, you are taking action, you are doing and doing. The feminine is to teach us to slow down and to show compassion. And I think compassion is a massive part of these journeys and this process, because as soon as you can hold compassion for yourself and for others, you can understand a situation a whole lot clearer. And it just helps you with your perspective on not reacting. And one of the things that I learned from the Mel Robbins let them theory was when an adult is having a tantrum, which is essentially what it is, when an adult has lost control of their emotions and they are angry and they are projecting and they're struggling, right? That's what they're doing. They're struggling with their emotions. So if we can see them not as somebody who's attacking us, not as somebody who's pulling out all our bad parts or all these things, rather than going on the defensive mode and feeling attacked, if you can slow down and imagine them as a child who was not taught how to regulate their emotions, you then behave differently. And all of a sudden you can handle it and hold that space, because you know, bless them, they're struggling. Like you would if you were in that situation with a child. And it's a really interesting mindset shift when you start seeing adults as children, because it's their inner child that is hurting. They are struggling. Like, there's a really beautiful part of unconditional love as humans when you can help each other by nurturing their inner child. And, it's massively saved and survived, like helped my relationships. And it's also allowed me to see those that are really struggling, that don't want to do the work and they don't want to change. But it's allowed me the time to realize they're really struggling, and they either move through this or they can be somehow inspired by the way I'm learning to hold space and move through my inner child troubles and traumas. Because of course, when you meet fire with fire, there's explosions. So there was a lot of explosions in my life because I was reactive and defensive and always felt like I had to convince and persuade and show myself and prove myself. As soon as I lent into my divine feminine a lot more, I was able to ground my emotions and my energy and my reactions and allow their tantrum to play out. And what happens, like with children, they mirror your actions. They soften, they slow down, they realize, oh no, wait, this is not how we're supposed to behave. This isn't how she's behaving. Let me come back to myself. And slowly but surely, these people will start to be able to navigate their own emotions, and it will introduce them to ways to work on themselves. And then that's how I believe you can support the greater shift in collective frequency and help the planet become better humans and live life better. Because I really believe if as humans we were less reactive, how beautiful would the world be if we didn't always react and respond to everything?
It is time to rise. We are being called to stand behind independent voices, movements, and media that refuse to be owned. Sovereign Magazine has never spoken to an advertiser, a corporation, or a billionaire. We are a grassroots movement made for and funded by you. If you are ready to rise, to shatter ceilings, and to stand in your truth, do it with us. It's free. Hit the like button, subscribe, comment, share. Every click helps us reach more people around the globe, ready to remember who they are. Are you coming with us? Oh my gosh, I'm just loving everything that you have said. This is like everything I believe. Okay, I'm going to move us into steps to your sovereign self because I have a really good question. And Dani doesn't know the questions before we do steps to your sovereign self. She likes to do things in the moment and in flow. And this is going to align with everything you were just saying. So you have this soul aligned visibility method. A lot of what you teach is how people can show up in their business and online. And regarding what you were talking about, people having tantrums and showing up as that toddler having that tantrum, and those things can happen online. And sometimes people don't want to show up in that space and be visible due to what will people say about me? What if I get a bad comment? What if somebody starts to have an argument online with me? Or even perhaps I get triggered or activated and I want to react instead of waiting to respond. So what do you share with your clients and how they can show up in these spaces when fear, anger, jealousy, or any of those things creep into their business?
This is an incredible question because, of course, this is the fundamental part of being visible and vulnerable online. This is the sticky, gnarly, messy stuff that people avoid and they panic and they get scared of. So my methods and processes is basically allowing themselves to figure out the ways to navigate this. So thank you so much for asking me, because a lot of what I teach is about how you trust your inner compass, how you manage and maintain your baseline frequency, how you allow others to behave however they need to behave, because you know it is not a reflection on you, and you do not allow any external validation, any external reactions to question how you feel about yourself or your work. And basically the combination of the let them theory and the law of allowing, and also to understand that as humans we have free will and we are not here to control how anybody thinks, behaves or believes or feels or does, right? We cannot control that. So as soon as you release the desire to want to control, it already helps a little bit with that, because you know what's the worst that's going to happen. I can't predict that anyway. What I can control is how I show up for myself and how I respond to whatever comes my way. And if I choose to hold that center as my focus, I'm going to create for me. I'm going to show up for how I want to show up today. I'm going to share my story, and I'm not going to allow the potential of whatever anybody's feeling or thinking or going to say or do, because they're allowed to do that anyway, and I cannot predict or control it. So it literally physically is out of my control. And as humans, you know, we're conditioned to want to control everything. And when you realize that you can't, you just can't, so let go. There's something about owning that is really powerful. When somebody says all these things to me and I say, so what? Are you going to allow the potential risk of someone's reaction to stop you doing what you want to do today? Because that would be really sad, and that would be a great big shame, because you can't change that anyway. You can't control it, and it's not your job to control it. Your job is to show up as you and to share your story, your beliefs, your values, and by leading by example, that you're not going to allow anybody's potential thoughts or opinions to affect that and impact that. But the other thing that I like to share is the thought that everyone's allowed a negative opinion, and there's actually nothing wrong with negative opinions. We understand the polarities in life. There has to be right and wrong. There has to be good and bad. We have to understand what brings us joy so that we know what brings us sadness, and vice versa. Negative opinions are just somebody processing how they feel about something you've said or done because of their own personal perception. However, we have negative opinions on people all the time. Situations, people that we love all the time, constantly. And the example that I use is I adore my husband. He is my life partner, my soulmate, the father of my children. I have negative opinions about him every day. When he throws his pants at the wash basket and it misses, I am raging. I hate him for those seconds. And then the next minute I love him again. And actually, if you can imagine that situation, every time you post on social media and you know somebody might have a negative opinion, that's okay. They're not going to change how they feel about me. And actually, I might post something else and they might love it. And that's the reality of navigating humans. We are multifaceted beings. We have multiple opinions and thoughts all the time. And it is not rational to want to understand or control or expect any of that. So that is why when you regain your control and your power and you choose to create from what aligns with your soul purpose, what aligns with your business, your values, your beliefs, your energy, that's all you can do. And there's something really beautifully freeing about that notion. As soon as you accept that this isn't about anyone else, this is about you, and you get to choose how you show up, you get to choose how you behave, how you respond, what you talk about, you get to choose how we carry ourselves online, you get to choose the content you put out there, you get to make a choice. And if that choice upsets somebody, whether that was your intention or not, and hopefully it wasn't, hopefully you check your intention before you post. And if it isn't intentionally supposed to upset or harm anybody, you can then rationally, as a grounded adult, choose how to respond. And what's really beautiful about when you have that inner compass and that strong sense of self, you know when you need to respond and when you don't. And there's often things online where people are reacting and they're responding and they're calling people out. And I look at it and I think, gosh, what a shame. Because you didn't need to do that. And what you're doing is you're creating this energy and this fire of how I believe humanity have got it wrong so far. Because we've been reacting. And I believe in energy grows where energy goes. And I believe you should give to the energy you want more of and be the change. I like to lead by example, that I want to put out there the energy that I want to see. I want to put out the energy that I want to feel. So when I see that call out culture, it brings me sadness because all you're doing is creating that spiral of panic. Even if your intentions are good, even if you think you're defending something, there was a saying I heard once, even if you're shouting no at hate, you are still shouting. Like, we need to respond with love, with kindness, with compassion. And actually, there's a lot of power in turning a blind eye. Rising above it, all these expressions that we were taught as kids, they're really powerful. And I think humans have got a bit reckless. They don't listen to that anymore. They're all over the place because we now have gone a little bit too extreme with our free will. And actually, because we've been given the tools of the internet and we've got these opportunities where you can say whatever you want, we've lost a little bit of the compassionate side of what it means to be human. And actually, we are sociable creatures. We're supposed to look after our tribe, our community, and we're supposed to help each other. And unfortunately, when you allow your own personal perception and traumas and reactions to control how you react and respond online, you're affecting other people. And that's just a whole load of sad chaos. And I will play no part of it. So I will lead from the front by showing other fellow humans, this is how we behave online. This is how we respond in our businesses. And this is why I joke and I say I'm changing the world one Instagram account at a time. Because if you can choose your platform to spread good, to spread joy, to spread positivity and love, that has a ripple effect. It really does compound. And that's how you support this rise and this shift in humanity.
And this is why we were attracted to each other, right? We're two platforms spreading joy and positivity. Well, you can definitely see why Dani is our multidimensional law of attraction, manifestation, and energy alignment columnist here in 2026. So definitely stick around for more. She's going to have incredible articles this year. So if you haven't liked, shared, subscribed, please do. She's also in our community.sovereign-magazine.com. All her details are in the show notes of how to connect with her. and she'll be back next month for some more. So thank you so much for being here, Dani.
You're welcome, and thank you so much. I love this opportunity, and this platform's incredible.
Oh, it's so amazing. Can't wait for the next one. Thank you for listening. This is the last episode for this issue. I'll be back again on the full moon with another soul-led entrepreneur here to help guide you to your sovereign self. Subscribe to our magazine and podcast and join our global community for all the magic. Details to connect with today's guest or join the movement are in the show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review. It helps us reach our goal of guiding 5 million women to self-sovereignty.